In this video, we're going to be covering our hip sleeper PAILs and rails, or hip sleeper stretch. This is specifically for working on internal rotation of that hip joint. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start off in this bare position here, where we're trying to sit up nice and tall, making sure our two sit bones of our pelvis are constantly planted on the ground. You're going to flex your hips, and think about trying to pull those knees as far in towards your hips as you can, while trying to maintain a straight shin angle here. So we don't want that to be folded in or completely straightened out. We want to maintain a slight bend at that knee joint, but making sure that these two parts of your legs here, your tibia, are parallel to one another. Now, if you find it difficult to sit up upright in this position, feel free to grab some kind of block or platform that you can sit on top of. This will allow us to sit up a little bit more comfortably, trying to maintain a slight arch in that lower back. So thinking about kind of keeping the chest up, this will allow us to maybe even pull the knees closer in and drive them down. Now, set up for that initial passive stretch prior to producing our PAILs and rails contraction. We're going to start off by having both knees pulled apart from one another towards the ground. Then we're going to start off with passively or slightly actively and passively rotating the hip that we intend to work on into its furthest passive internal range of motion. Now, as you bring that hip in towards you, make sure that you don't let your torso rotate or your hip and pelvis come off that block. Maintain a nice square torso as we just try to slowly, passively rotate that hip joint in towards the middle of the body, towards the floor. Now, your starting position may be completely different from mine, so just try to find that passive range, which is pain-free. Now, once we hit that passive range, we're going to use your hand and place it on the outside of the knee here and outside of the thigh, and lightly push down, creating some pressure to maintain a constant line of tension and stretch in that hip joint. Following this stretch for 1 or 2 minutes, we're then going to start off by creating our first PAILs contraction. So we're going to start off by taking a deep breath in, exhaling, creating tension through the body, thinking about creating your safest maximum effort contraction, radiating tension through the entire body. And then we're going to begin our first PAILs contraction, in which we're going to try and push the hip out into external rotation. So we're trying to create this motion here, but our hand is going to be in the way, acting as a block, pushing back with just as much force as this hip is trying to rotate out with. So if I'm pushing and rotating my head away from me, I'm going to make sure this hand is pushing back just as hard. So we're trying to create as much force and contraction and tension as we can from this joint here for about 10 seconds or so. After 10 seconds of our PAILs contraction, we're going to do 10 seconds of rail, during which we'll keep our hand in that position where we had it the entire time. Now we're going to try and rotate that hip further into internal rotation, thinking about coming off the hand there, trying to again make sure as we pull deeper into internal, we're not letting our entire torso or hip turn with us. So for about 10 seconds, sustain that level of effort and tension, keep pulling. Then we'll relax, bring that tension back down to 0%. And then we're going to use our hand, place it back, and see if we can lightly, passively stretch a little bit deeper into our new passive range. Rest here for about 20 to 30 seconds, and then you can feel free to repeat a second or third round of our PAILs and rails contraction. Once you've done the intended number of reps and rounds in one side of the hip and one hip, make sure to follow that up on the other side as well.